Commissioner Brown.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add to the agenda under Legislative Committee F8, an item to discuss and investigate the conduct of Judge Joe Thompson. I have brief descriptions from some that Judge Thompson has wronged, and I'm asking for Mr. John Gentry be given 15 minutes to describe this conduct before this body. I recognize it is not normal business for this body to consider judicial misconduct. However, the judicial review process has failed, and according to the Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, when anyone criticizes the honesty and integrity or motives of a federal judge, I find it disheartening. I find that demoralizing. Anyone is prone to mistakes, errors, poor judgment, and criminality, even a judge. No man is infallible. For this reason, we have state judges and district attorneys going off the rails, creating a two-tier system of justice and an atmosphere of coddling criminals. This is a reason for the influx of people from these other states that have devolved into banana republics to Tennessee. We're entering a dark age in this country unless the better angels of our nature start to take control of this ship. We have Tennessee standards that need to be upheld before we join that list of states. Why should we take up this business? As Mr. Gentry will explain if my motion is approved, the body of this commission is the only hope to ensure fair courts are available to the good people of Sumner County. Why else should we take up this business? Under the state constitution, citizens have a right to address this body. The federal government is presently in the habit of curbing our freedom of speech, presidential rallies, school board meetings, hospitals, religious expression, and the list goes on. I don't want our legislative body to be equated to the current federal government. Surely we can spare a few minutes in obedience to our oaths. Here are some that sought out Mr. Gentry as their advocate against Judge Joe Thompson, and it is reasonable to assume that there are many more who have similar grievances. They include Gail Flatt. Her daughter was placed in the custody of an admitted alcoholic and drug addict father, which Thompson recognized in the court order.
I'm going to rule that unless I'm overruled, that he can continue, but please be brief, if you will, Commissioner Brown.
There are others that have also been in this: Chad Harper, Mort Burt, Mary Beth Harcrow, Jennifer McCann, and also John Gentry in various cases. I'm highly concerned for my future in bringing the request for this agenda item to be considered by this body due to retaliation. And should I ever have to enter his courtroom, however, acting as a body, there is strength. There's a reason that lawyers, which is the requirement to be a judge in the state of Tennessee, don't run against other sitting judges, because it would effectively end their practice. So judges are effectively on the bench in their courtroom for life. By God's grace and guidance, I've only had to seek counsel a few times in my life and never in a courtroom. And I'm in the latter part of my life. I've led an uneventful life in the eyes of the law and would like to keep it that way. However, due to the arbitrary and unfair nature that this state judge has conducted himself before his jurisdiction, which is only the county of Sumner, I feel that we must do something to rein in his heavy-handed and oppressive rulings. Cowardice is condemned in the Bible, abhorred by me as a retired soldier.
Point of order.
I've already ruled on this, Commissioner Pomeroy.
I'm just about finished. I'm just about finished. And a reason that our final great judge would send me to hell. Revelation 21:8 says, "But for the cowardly and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and immoral persons and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars, their part will be in the lake that burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death." And I have complete faith in his judgment. For this reason, I petition this body to make the motion to add this request to the agenda for Mr. Gentry to redress his grievances, and for those many others for at least 15 minutes. A message of condemnation from this county legislative body would send a clear message to the State General Assembly that we do not consider Judge Joe Thompson a fair arbiter of the law in Sumner County. And lastly, remember that there is strength in a body. I so move.
All right. Because of the uniqueness of this request, I'm going to ask for a vote on the first agenda items and then this, on the first ones that I read to you, and then on this one that Commissioner Brown. So this is all of the others that I mentioned to you at first. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Now this vote, and I'm going to ask that the clerk place this in the queue. This vote will be on the request of Commissioner Brown. All right, motion and a second, so now it is in order. Madam Clerk, if you'll place it on the board. Commissioner Ring.
Oh, thank you, sir. I don't believe this is the time and the place for this. I believe if we're going to have somebody stand up here for 15 minutes and attack a sitting judge, then the sitting judge should have the opportunity to sit up here for 15 minutes and defend themselves. So I don't believe this is the time and the place for this, so I will be voting no. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The 15 minutes is what's a little concerning to me. We only allow the public comments for 5 minutes. So I don't know why this would be of any extraordinary cause to give triple the time. And if this is added to the agenda, we could give this individual an opportunity to sign the public comments and state his grievances there.
Commissioner Schoaf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I tend to agree, Mr. Harrison. One, this doesn't seem fair to grant 15 minutes for this one case if 5 is the typical protocol for this body. And 2, I also understand typical protocol for this body is not to be, not for any citizens' comments to be specifically directed toward any individual. That said, I do strongly support the right of remonstrance, so I believe I would support some amendment to speak, but I would like to make the right to speak here, but I'd like to make an amendment that this be for 5 minutes and that no specific individuals be named per protocol of this body. We know who we're talking about here, but we can, I think, keep it within the protocol that we normally use.
So the commissioner has requested that this be amended to 5 minutes, as all citizens are allowed if it passes. So this is the 5-minute window that we're voting on. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. All right, if this passes, this person will have 5 minutes as all other citizens to present their case. Commissioner Mansfield.
I would be remiss, Mr. Chairman, if I didn't state that the petitioner has stated on the record to us that he's going to sue us in a lawsuit. You know, and it's been said before, when somebody comes in here legally and holds a legal gun to our heads to make us do something, that this, you know, there's been problems with that. So I understand the right of remonstrance. You know, our state constitution does not provide any means for an oral petition. The petitioner has stated a grievance to his representative, stated a grievance to the entire county commission several times in an email, I believe. And so there's multiple ways of petition, and oral, there's not I'm just stating that a constitutional fact. But I do have a problem with the fact that we've been threatened to be sued just because of this issue. So stack that to yet another lawsuit that somebody's not happy about something that we are doing or are not doing, so they're just going to try to sue us. So I just take serious issue with that, and I wish that would not have happened. Might have been able to take this a little bit more differently, in my opinion.
Commissioner Pomeroy.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I agree with my fellow commissioner who just spoke.
I believe in what we read, there was something mentioned to a banana republic. If this is allowed in this way, that's exactly what this body would be. We have a process, a legal process that this guy can go through. This did not go through committee, so it could be vetted. I don't know if any of us even know what it is. I sure don't know what it is. I mean, if you know the right county commissioner, can you walk up 10 minutes before a meeting and say, hey, I think your judge is evil, or I think this cop's bad, and I'm demanding 15 minutes in front of these people to speak. I've seen a lot of stuff in the last 6 or 7 months that I've spoke about, but this is crazy. And I would hope that my fellow commissioners would see, if we start governing this way, I mean, everybody thinks that we think we can do everything from this body anyways. I mean, this is wild. I mean, this is not due process. Man can go anywhere he wants to. There's plenty of channels for him to speak. But just to be thrown onto an agenda underneath the legislative, and there's some rules procedures that I think we'd have to, if he doesn't speak under citizen comments, then why is legislative taking it up? If we do, we'd have to suspend rules to allow him to speak, or we just rewriting everything as we see fit. I hope that the other 23 of y'all can realize, whether you know anything about it or not, this is not how this gets done.
Commissioner Teachner.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My concern also is just if we're allowing a sitting judge to be attacked in a public forum such as this, a governing body, without him being here. I mean, no matter what the charge is, I have no idea what it is, but whatever that would be would wind up casting some shadow of doubt or guilt or something like that. I think it could be harmful. So I encourage everybody to be very, very careful about that.
Thank you. Commissioner Harris.
Yes, sir. Can I address a question to our attorney?
Sir,
May I address a question to our attorney?
you may.
Would this not be better suited to go through the ethics committee before it came here?
Me as an attorney, I would have to refer to some sort of judicial review panel.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment that this goes back to the ethics board, and then they at that point they can bring something back to us.
I would prefer, Commissioner Harris, to follow through with what the attorney has said, that it be some form of judicial review panel or whatever is appropriate. The ethics committee was set up to really judge the actions of this body and not other county officials. But if you want that amendment, do you want to still pursue that amendment then?
If I can get a second.
All right, is there a second? All right, motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. No. Place that on the board, Madam Clerk.
Is this coming under 1340? Each commissioner record your vote.
With 9 yeas, the motion fails. We're back on the discussion of this. Commissioner Jones.
Since the accusation or the account came up, that's why I seconded it, because I do want to hear it. But I also wanted to ask a question to our county attorney, if there was any suggestions on how better to hear this. I know that Mr. Gentry has emailed us a few times on this, and I think he's looking for an avenue to air this out and get it heard. And so I do want him to have that opportunity. If there's any other suggestions on how it gets heard, I do want it to have the right process, but to not hear it at all, I think would not be right as well. Can the attorney speak to that?
I will allow him to if he'd like to say something about that.
I'm going to go back to my original response, which is there is a judicial review for the state of Tennessee, and that's where I think this belongs. If they've ruled on it already, that's the ruling. And I would, for the county purposes, deem this as just an attempt to vent that somebody may not be happy with the outcome of all the other remedies that they had to have this resolved. So I would not encourage the county to continue to support these accusations. I would leave it where it belongs, which is with the state review.
Do you know if it has been to the state review?
Commission.
I have no idea.
What is Commissioner Mansfield?
I was just going to, again, this has been emailed to us several times. I believe everybody's received the petition. I remember Commissioner Teachner responded, but the original request was from the commissioner from the 17th district to send this to legislative. It wasn't being done fast enough, and therefore the threat to sue us because we weren't doing anything or going to do anything, and then the threat to basically wanted to bring it to the body for an audience. And so was being contemplated going through the committee process. But the problem is, again, looking at what I said before, the petitioner, there's many ways to deal with grievances, and an oral presentation is not necessarily a guarantee as far as like petitioning, your representative petitioning, emailing the commission, or even getting for a committee, which obviously failed tonight for even going for a committee. Just wanted to lay that out there that was kind of an option that was bypassed by the petitioner of going to a committee process. So I just want to make you guys aware of that.
Commissioner Rogers?
I guess I'm the last in the queue, but I call for the question.
You are last in the queue, so we will vote on this matter at this time. It will take a 2/3 vote to hear from this petitioner because this is not on the agenda. Madam Clerk.
Each commissioner record your vote.
With 5 yes votes, this body has declined to hear the petitioner.